thou that sleepest, arise from the dead.
Read the Bible, you'll find out that God's not too happy with what's going on around us.
Redeem the time, because the days are evil.
The Bible has not changed.
Boldly proclaim the restoration and preservation of Christian values in America.
Satan has brainwashed a whole nation.
As goes the church, so goes the nation.
Nobody's convicted of anything anymore.
And now, here's Last Call with your host, B.J. Edwards.
Morning, morning, morning. Hope you're all doing well. Going to be a little unique this morning for the program. I got a email, a video sent to me from one of our listeners, which we'll probably play fairly quickly. It was a response, I think, to last week we talked about a gentleman, Daniel Grand, an Orthodox Jew who wanted to have a Bible study in his home, and he was having problems getting that done. State was kind of intervening on that, and we're going to talk about that. But first, you're about to listen to 90 minutes of opinion and entertainment supplied by Last Call Radio. We're not doctors, lawyers, politicians, professional journalists, nor do either of us hold a doctorate degree in anything, not that that would make any difference, our opinion, of course. We only ask that you as an individual and or corporately not take our statements or those that we voice from others personal, nor do we recommend that you act on them as if they are facts, although they might very well be just that, facts. Our opinion. You're not required to listen to, act on, or repeat anything that you hear today, and that any information or opinion we present is meant for the good of the order and by no means intended to threaten or harm anyone. By no means intended to threaten or harm anyone. Folks, today we're engaged in a final all-out battle between communistic atheism and Christianity righteousness. Y'all agree with that? You should. You see that? You should. Today, by the way, that's not my quote.
Oh.
Joseph McCarthy.
Oh, I
You know who he
miss
was?
him.
Yeah, well, we need him. He was a Republican senator from Wisconsin, 1947, 1957, 10 years. And he's best known for his post-war struggle to make America aware that under democratic administrations, communists have infiltrated our institutions, including the United States government and an entire educational system. I don't know whether you got the news this week about the Smithsonian and how they're trying to help out with that. You know, Karl Marx, go ahead.
I want to share a comment from a Rumble fan here.
Okay.
I was able to get this link circulated to 17 people, but I was unable to post it to my X account. I am going to try again. I am so excited that we're getting to this information.
Neat. Hope we can fulfill that excitement. You know, I talk about Karl Marx, the Communist Manifesto in 1848 and the family. Marx also said that communism would ensure that children would be educated by the state and not by their parents. Where I get on Nextdoor and the arguments for property taxes and we need the education, need more money, that we need to yada, yada, yada with regards to education. Whew. He wrote in the manifesto, he wrote in the manifesto, would rescue education from the influence of the ruling class. Words mean things, folks. The making of the new man was the priority. And of course, the family, tap that again. The family was the problem.
We lost volume all of a sudden.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you're not as clear as you were. Beat that mic up.
Yeah, I'm going to do the best we can with that. Is that any better at all?
It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't that incredible? Joseph McCarthy. I mean, this is decades ago, folks.
I didn't know, well, I don't know how much I know now in comparison, but I certainly didn't know much back then. But when I look back at what he was about, I think, wow, they should have
He was an
listened.
extremist. He was an extremist.
Yeah,
They discredited him.
big time. I think that's sad because he was on it. He knew what he was talking about.
The historical precedent for protecting our country from dangerous speech and activity in the 20th century, the Smith Act of 1940, criminalized advocating the overthrow of the U.S. government, upheld in 1951. The Internal Security Act of 1950 required communist organizations to register with the U.S. government and created mechanisms to control subversive activities. The Communist Control Act of 1954, signed by President Eisenhower, outlawed the Communist Party in the USA as a threat to national security. You know, McCarthy was right. We have attacks on churches, on other religions except Islam, and our system of capitalism like never before.
Well, I think, my theory on capitalism is it's been hijacked by the communists. Communism couldn't survive without some kind of income. So how do you get income? I mean, the governments don't create income. They print money. So what communism does with capitalism, they capitalize on certain corporations and they own the market.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they take away the free market. When you look at what happened to the mom and pop stores that we used to have, the corner grocery store and the Fred's clothing store or whatever, the shoe store that used to be downtown. Delaware used to be a business area downtown.
Delaware, Ohio. Correct. You're talking about. Okay.
Yeah. When I moved here, there were clothing stores, shoe stores, grocery store, hardware stores. They're all gone. You got to go to Walmart or Lowe's.
Yep.
That's
I get that.
That's what communist capitalism does.
Capitalism creates. Communism consumes. And if you get rid of all the capitalists, now what? Well, geez, we really don't know, BJ. Yes, you do. You got any communist countries that exist in the world today? Well, yeah, a lot of people are leaving from there, aren't they? Interesting. Wow. This morning we're gonna review a few excerpts from chapter 3 or 4 before the last chapter in the Great American Experiment. We can still be saved. Right wing, lefty loonies, conservatives, liberals. Names mean things, folks. And we certainly have increased our American vocabulary of late. Did I mention hate speech? Assassinations, child abuse, religious zealots. The list goes on, as we all know, or should I say, we as Americans are want to practice all this. Need to get this out, need to get this discussed, and we need to have, possible solutions for all this. Education is part of that. That's what we're doing this morning, educating. But
we don't have any government funding, right?
No, we do not. We do not.
So they can't tell us what to say or teach.
Well, they can take us down or punish us like YouTube did. Am I sounding any different now? Something just plugged in my ears. Can you still hear me okay?
Yes, you're fine.
Yeah. Okay. Sound issues this morning. I have to get some kind of a government grant to help us out here this morning, right? in future programs. Communism likes to make a bad guy or bad guys. Christianity is a bad guy. capitalists are bad guys. Get the rich, right? Tax the rich. You hear that all the time from U.S. citizens, mostly from a liberal progressive lean, or should I say totally from a liberal progressive lean. And the attack on religion, Christianity, has just been incredible. We've Supreme Court legalized contraception in 65, pornography in 669, abortion in 73, homosexuality in 2003, and homosexual marriage in 2015. We've taken the 10 Commandments off the walls of our schools. The Bible's out. And God help us with the kind of books we're putting in when we took the Bible out. It's just absolutely incredible. When you don't know the truth, you don't have common sense, folks. And common sense is what we need right now, in bundles of it. I going to have kind of a humorous video we're going to play here, but it's also maybe something we ought to discuss at the same time. Again, this is from the Babylon Bee that we're going to play before the break. Take a break, and then we're going to come back and have a discussion. I'm going to bring some of our panelists in this morning, and you don't want just to hear from me. I know. There isn't anything better than BJ, but I want to give some other opinion in here, just to try. But again, this is Babylon Bee. So understand, this is coming from the Babylon Bee, folks. And it's kind of making a point. And some of our audience can go one way or the other way with it. Be interesting to see what happens after that. Right, Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Oh boy.
I was just going to send it to you, but I figured, let's just put this in the program this morning. Let's go ahead and play that, take a break, and then come back and have a discussion, folks. BJ Edwards, along with Mr. Anderson, folks, this is your last call. America, this is your last call. Pay heed.
The Jews. Who are they? What are their intentions with us? The Jews were thought to have first come to Earth on a spaceship many, many years ago, the crash landing of which killed the dinosaurs. They then framed an asteroid for the dinosaurs' death, starting a prejudice that lasts to this day. After murdering all the really cool dinosaurs, what the Jews did next is not fully known, but some records remain.
You'll notice that most of the Bible focuses on the Jews. Even God recognized that these are people you need to keep a close eye on. And somewhere in the back of this thing, it talks about a Jew that the Romans put to death, and 3 days later, he came back. Just imagine it. An unkillable Jew. Truly terrifying.
But where are the Jews today? Legend has it they made themselves a lair somewhere in the Middle East, surrounded by warring Muslims, so no one would dare go there and find them. And yet it's said they still cause problems here in the US. Here's Carl, an online expert on the Jews.
The Jews are just out to get us. They're the source of all of our problems. They're the reason why I don't have a job, why I don't have a girlfriend, and why I say really stupid things on the internet. And why I smell bad.
You do smell very bad.
Because of the Jews.
And why do you think they're doing this to you?
I don't know. They're just mean, I guess.
Not to doubt Carl, though he did smell very bad. We set up cameras in his home to see if Jews really were the reasons behind all his problems. And what we found may shock you. So why are the Jews like this? What do they want from us? What do they gain from causing everyone so many problems? To find out, we were able to secure an interview with a Jew to find the real truth. So why are you all after us? What is it that you actually want? Hello, I'm trying to talk to you. What? You're not a Jew at all. What the? What? That's my van.
Last Call with BJ Edwards. Real talk about real life.
Divide and conquer. I know I'm going to get some reaction. I'm going to bring our panelist in, and I was talking to Betty. I'll bring her in shortly. Earlier this morning, where there was some kind of a act or law that Congress is trying to pass right now, Mr. Anderson. I think you were aware of it.
Yeah, I forget the letters. What, NDAA or something like that? It includes the Save America Act within it, which is the big selling point, but it's there's a bill, again, I forget the number, that was added to this package deal that incorporates Israel into our military, being able to access our secrets and weapons. And I don't I've heard so many different interpretations of it, but none of them sounded good to me. But first of all, Israel is a foreign country to America. They call them an ally, but you can have an ally that you don't want to give your house key to.
Interesting. Jews, communists, LGBTQ, Christians, divide and conquer. What's the problem here? JC, Norm, pipe in, please.
Go ahead, JC.
Hey, real quick. All them things you just mention them again. What was each one?
Jews, communists, LGBTQ, and Christians.
And schools. Now, here's an idea that just popped into my head. About 15 years ago, the government schools ruined John Freshwater, destroyed him.
John Freshwater was a Christian teacher in a school in his local area in Ohio.
Thousands of kids loved him to death. He had the largest FCA in the state of Ohio. He was huge with these students in middle school and high school. They all loved him. That day they fired him, 600 kids carried their Bibles to school the next day in the high school. 600 kids carrying Bibles, holding them up in the air. And he was still in there that day, and they were screaming in the halls, massive amount of kids in the halls. Mr. Freshwater, we love you. And then they all met out at the rock at the end of the day, the big rock in front of the school, 900 students, news media was there. So I'm just thinking this morning, 15 years ago, this all happened to him. He's got some incredible stories to tell. He would be a good guest for you to have on the show. It's been a long time since he's got to tell that story, and he would love to do it, but it'd just be, the people would love to hear from John Freshwater. So think about that one.
We'll make it happen. FCA is Fellowship of Christian Athletes, folks. And John Freshwater had a great following from children, teaching them righteousness.
Was he a selected teacher of the year?
Twice. He was there 21 years, 2 years away from retirement, one girl in high school still, 2 kids in college, was right at the peak of his life, didn't know much on his property. It's just an incredible story when you hear the whole thing. They destroyed him. And we were allowed to have FCA in the middle school, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, on the lunch hour, each lunch hour, 3 grades, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And they had a choice. You either go in this door here, music room, or you go out these doors to the playground for your lunch break. And we'd always have about 50 kids every Saturday, 50 kids in each group. You come in there and you'd have 8 minutes to share Jesus with them. And it was just always fun and exciting. The kids loved it, and they'd high-five us going in and going out. Some kids would go by and say, me and John would stand in the hallway, and right straight down the hallway was the office. So there was a few select teachers that would stand in there and watch us because they hated John, a few of them, the God haters. And we're high-fiving kids and hollering and screaming in the hallways. It was always a blast. John made it fun for them kids, and they got rid of him.
Yeah, well, they had to. I mean, we took the 10 Commandments down. We took Bibles out, and now some right-wing Christian is in there trying to indoctrinate children. And John Freshwater did not understand it's not his job to indoctrinate children in Christianity. It's his job to indoctrinate children in secular humanism. And he would not follow the rules. Out you go, Christian. Out you go. Norm, comments, please.
Well, everything that God wants and wanted for his people is what's under attack.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And I think I'm seeing something this week. We'll talk about it and y'all can give me your opinion. I think that we have been distracted over here to see the fight is between Democrats and Republicans.
Okay.
When the real fight is over here is a spiritual battle.
Okay. Yep.
Now over here, that's a battle we may or may not win. You may or may not have your vote counted. Okay. But over here, spiritually, we have authority. And the real, when you get to the bottom line, the real spiritual battle is going to surprise you, I think, is over the land. And let me explain. What did God focus most on for his people? We have 2,000 verses in the Bible about the land. God said, go in and do what? Take possession of the land. God understood that if the people had land, they could reap an economic benefit from it. And so over here, again, what's socialism and capitalism about? What do they want to take? They want to own everything. You'll own nothing and be happy, right? It's about the land. And again, spiritually, we have authority. And I want to share something that I hadn't planned to share and hadn't planned to talk to anybody about, but I think the Lord wants me to. Had a call Tuesday afternoon about noon from a friend of mine that I've talked about on the show. That's a big farmer, the one that's got the 8 kids, and they've got a big farm. He called me and he said, he has 38 Mexicans to work. He's got 300 acres of watermelons and 100 acres of squash and just on and on and on. And so he has to have a lot of help. He said, I've got a Mexican here that I think is demon possessed. He's setting fires. He's doing all kinds of crazy things. He said, all the rest of them's afraid of him. And he said, I think he's demon possessed. And he's calling me to see if I'm willing to talk to him about and do something about it. So we talked a while and I said, okay. And he talked about getting others involved. I said, no, this needs to be between me and you. So I said, I'll be over in about 20 minutes. Well, I go over, and of course I'm praying the whole way because I've never been involved in casting a demon out of anybody in my life. But I know that we have the authority to do that. So I'm thinking through the scriptures, and Jesus sent the disciples out 2 by 2 and gave them authority. So we get over there and we go over to where he's at. They wouldn't even let him work, and they had another Mexican that was guarding him, so to speak. And so he doesn't speak any English. So he's trying to. We had an interpreter there that's trying to talk to him that said that we wanted to pray for him. He said, no. He didn't want anybody praying for him. And I'm standing right behind him at the doorway, and my friend and the interpreter's on the outside. And this guy would turn around and stare me down, look me in the eye as they was talking to him about praying. He's, And he would look at me for 20, 30 seconds, and I never took my eyes off of him. I knew he was trying to do that. And finally, he turned around and looked at me and stuck his hand out. And when he did, I took him by the hand, I put a hand on my shoulder, and I began to pray for him. And I began to take my authority over that demon. And in a minute or two, he began to yap, 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 yap. And I knew that was a demon leaving. And so I prayed over him. He seemed to be at peace, and I gave him a hug. I have not talked to my friend since then, but I know that I knew that God gave us authority over that demon, and that demon is gone. So what I'm saying is, we have authority over here about them trying to take our land. And again, the Bible says that one can send 1,000 packing, that two can send 10,000. And we're not taking that. Again, we're distracted over here in the political battle, which needs to be fought. But we need to understand the real battle is over here in the spiritual nature.
Yeah, there's physical manifestations.
Right.
Yeah. That you have to deal with. They're there. They're real. It's kind of you got two hands, so you can put one hand on this issue and the other hand on that issue, and work on both at the same time. That's very interesting. Very interesting. You've had a successful week, I'd say.
Well, it was interesting to say the least.
Yeah, I'd like to hear the end of that.
I was a bit nervous, you know.
I don't blame you.
You know, but I knew it's kind of one of them things you knew. Like I said, I knew that when Keith said, well, do you want to get this person and that person with us? I knew it would need to be me and him, because God reminded me, Jesus sent them out, what, 2 by 2. And so I knew this was for he and I to do. And he prayed after I did too. But, and we commanded that demon to leave. He couldn't, of course, we were on a big farm that we did not allow him to go into any animals, and he had to be gone. And so, like I said, kind of exciting.
And I think it's a good example of what we as Christians, don't necessarily have to be Christians, but we need to exercise the communist demons, the atheist demons that are occupying, not a person, but occupying, what'd you say, land?
It's over the land.
They're
Take possession of the land.
Interesting.
So, we learned from, was it David Whitney that told us a few weeks ago, see, the civil government could own no land. If they needed to build a building or needed land for government, they had to go to the landowner and lease it from him, but the government never owned it, but the owner of the land always would reap a benefit from his land. And we see also how important the land was with the year of Jubilee. You know, if a man had messed up and made bad decisions and lost his land, what happened the year of Jubilee? It went back to that family. So the land is a big deal to God.
We've taken care of that. It's called eminent domain.
Right.
And that means, folks, for those of you who've been public educated, that the government can come in, and instead of asking that landowner if they can rent or use that land,
or buy it,
well, rent or use it, they say, well, no, we're not going to do that. We are now going to be owners, and we're going to give you a fair and reasonable offer for your land. One offer, and it doesn't make any difference whether it's just kind of like no fault divorce. It doesn't make any difference whether you agree or disagree with what we're doing. We're still going to take the land because it's for the good of the order. I don't know when eminent domain was introduced, but that is, I had not really thought about the land issue, but you are correct, sir. Mm-hmm. You are correct. I'm glad I invited you in this morning.
Okay.
Another threat to personal property, which is a goal of one of the planks of the Communist Manifesto, is to take property. There's no private property.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we don't know
nothing. And when you look at what happens with property taxes, it's obvious that you'll never own your property.
Right. Yeah, don't pay your property taxes about 3 or 4 years and see what happens.
Yeah. Another form of eminent domain.
Yeah.
Take that land. One of the things, JC, you got a comment before I rattle on here? Okay. One of the things I mentioned early on in my introduction was about educating you.
Before we go to that, quick break.
Okay.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
And we are back. Good morning. We have landed a new idea thanks to one of our guests this morning, Norm. I think that's biblical, and I never really gave that any thought, brother. That is a great point, and I think exercising unrighteousness out of this land in the form of people and ideas, etc., is a great thing to do. I mentioned education. Where do you get your news from? Where do you get your information from? Half of what you hear and nothing you see. The old expression, right? Did we really land on the moon? Did 9/11 really happen the way they said it, et cetera, et cetera? I'm not going to get into the conspiracy theory stuff. I'm just saying. Some of you are going to say on the internet, and of course, if it's on the internet, it's got to be true, right? Although they do limit people, which we have found out, that have differing opinions from the communist and from our LGBT community and from our indoctrinating public schools and from. So where do you get your information? A lot of you are going to say Fox News. Sound familiar?
Or Newsmax.
Well, this particularly is Fox, but I could probably find some articles on Newsmax. Don't know. Headline: Pastors, pundits torch Fox News host vulgar attack on Christian journalist. Christians and pastors and pundits expressed outrage toward a Fox News host who vulgarly attacked a Christian journalist Tuesday by questioning the morality of homosexual surrogacy. That's where two men or two women generally use a relative and they give them the sperm and the egg, or they give them the sperm and use the egg of that individual, or vice versa. But then they have a child. Surrogacy. They have a child. Daily Wire reporter and commentator Megan Basham drew the ire of Fox News host and former MTV VJ Lisa Kennedy. It's now Lisa Kennedy Montgomery, but Lisa Kennedy, also known as Kennedy, when Basham weighed in on the New York Post story regarding Fox News contributor and political analyst Guy Benson announcing that he and his husband, how can we even say that? How can we say welcomed a baby girl last week? Benson is an incisive pundit, but there is nothing conservative about deliberately creating motherless children. That's what Basham said. I pray Benson and those like him on the right would consider what they are telling the world about how unnecessary they believe mothers, or if we're talking about two women, fathers, are to the needs of children. Children are born with an inherent need for a mother and a father. By the way, that's one female and male, one biologically born female, one biologically born male. They have a need for that. And again, I challenge you to go to the prison systems and talk to them about their home life. Anyway, because that is what they declaring when they create these children, that through the surrogacy process, the mothers and fathers had no specific purpose, Basham added. Kennedy replied to Basham on an X post that, bless your heart, Megan, while you're at it, go replace the batteries in your vibrator. I can go on and on about this, but here's some things that you need to know about your information source. Fox News, let me get to that. There we go. Fox News was endorsing an organization that offers cross-sex hormones to homeless youth. I got Avast trying to get into my program here. Oh, no. Hang in there. Okay. Was endorsing an organization that offers cross-sex hormones to homeless youth, Fox was. Hosted a pride-themed ice cream party at the New York headquarters of Fox News and recommended LGBT literature to its employees, including a book featuring Glory Hole. Now, the opinion here is Fox pretends to care about Christians, but some of the stuff they push internally suggests otherwise. Glory holes, trans surgeries for kids, and potential donations to Satan are a huge slap in the face to Christians, actually Americans. And we resent it, one whistleblower at Fox News said. You know, we've tried to approach Fox News with our Natural Family Month. Try to get them to at least to talk about it. Click. I wonder why. Gosh, I wonder why they didn't do anything like that. Comments, gentlemen, please.
Yeah. I know you mentioned the name Newsmax. I don't know if that was a...
I didn't mention it, Mr. Anderson did, but go ahead.
Yeah. I didn't know if that was a mention that maybe he didn't like them either, but I'm going to tell you something. I'm just about sick of Fox News. That's all I used to ever watch. But in the last 6 months to a year, I've been watching a lot of Newsmax in the evenings. Rob Schmidt, Carl Higbee. Carl Higbee at 6 o'clock is a man. Mm-hmm. He is a man. It's a wonder they haven't fired him yet. But Rob Finnerty, they all three at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and 8 o'clock, they rip all these things we're talking about. But I can't get these Christians to understand. I've mentioned it to Coach Dave several times. People need to at least listen. Listen to what they're saying. They're speaking out against transgenderism. They're speaking about against communism. They're speaking out against everything. And about Christianity being destroyed. They're mentioning all these things. If you watch and see, it won't be long. They'll be getting rid of these guys. Something's going to happen. But Carl Higbee is just, I think he was a Navy SEAL. He's a tough guy. I mean, he says some stuff that it makes my head spin sometimes that he says on the air, especially his first 10, 15-minute rant that he goes on. Every day it's something new, and he just rips it. But I wish Christians would start listening a little more. It'd show them a little bit of righteous anger. Now, I don't know if these guys are Christian or not. A few of them act like they are, and they say things like they are, but it would sure give an understanding to people if they listen to these guys, because they're ripping CNN, MSNBC, all of them, all the idiots. They're ripping all the God haters.
Well, Greg Kelly has a show after Finnery. Comes on 8 o'clock my time, be 9 o'clock your time, I guess. But he, one day last week, he talked about his faith. And so I feel certain he's a Christian who, you know, so I don't know about the others.
Yeah, and they hammer this stuff about the elections, the rigged elections. Greg Kelly hammers the stuff about the J6ers and how corrupt that whole thing was. I mean, they're doing it all the time. And you'd think we'd get more people to tune in. They are growing like crazy. I think they're up to 60 million viewers. They're beating the other ones. They are growing wildfire.
So how do you find Newsmax?
Yeah, you have to do. They're a $4.99 a month to have Newsmax Plus. Newsmax, the regular Newsmax that used to be free, that's not where these guys' shows are. They're on Newsmax Plus. It's $4.99 a month, and it will give you more ammunition than you can shake a stick at what they're talking about. It's crazy. And one of the things Carl Higbee...
So finding Newsmax Plus, I find Newsmax on Pluto, but I think it's not what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the more softer stuff. The hardcore stuff's on Newsmax Plus. That's where these guys have a 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and 9 o'clock hours, and they're growing like crazy. Carl Higbee said one night, he is a tough guy. He eats steak every day. He's got a big ranch up in Connecticut, and he brings veterans in. They shoot guns and they do stuff. He said one night, he's talking about being in the military. He said, he ran for Congress about 10 years ago. He is very smart on the laws and this stuff that's going on. But he said one time, he said, I'd spent 1 year in college and I realized that wasn't for me. I said, I had to get out. He said, and he enlisted. He said, but I had a recruiter tell me, he said, you enlist and get signed up with me. He said, we'll use you in blah, 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 in a mighty way. He said, you're on TV. And he said, I said, yes, sign me up. He said, I want to shoot bad guys in the face. I thought, you're going to get fired.
That's for a year.
But he just says what he feels. He doesn't hold back any at all.
It's only $5 something.
Once you listen to him a little while, you love him to death.
Yeah, I don't pay for Newsmax. I don't know. You don't either, do you, Mr. Anderson?
It's on
No.
Well,
no.
there's one on Pluto that JC said that it's not the same thing.
Okay.
I find it on different apps sometimes, but
No, it's not the same
I don't know what JC is talking about. Who and where? How do you sign up for the $5 a month?
You can probably just Google Newsmax Plus. The whole yearly subscription, Mary Jane wrote it down there, is $53.61 for a whole year. You'll get more information than you ever got on a news channel.
That's a lot of donuts. That's a lot of donuts and coffee, Jeff. I don't know whether I can make that sacrifice.
Well,
you'll get an app. Is that what you do? You get a Newsmax app?
I think so. I'm not sure how to. Mary Jane did. I'm not very smart on that crap.
But look, somebody in the audience can find out what to do. Newsmax, NEWSMAX, right?
Plus.
Newsmax. All right.
Newsmax Plus.
Okay, and that's we hear from one of our we have a recommendation from one of our panelists, and maybe you ought to look into that, folks. Maybe I don't know whether you can do. I'm sorry. I'm going to get in trouble with the missus if I put down Fox News anymore than I already have, so I'll keep my mouth shut.
Well, Fox News is horrible, but I look at many different sources. I don't believe one. So if there's a subject that comes up, I end up doing a lot of research, and I compare information from one to another, and my end resource that I go to, beginning and end, I look at both ends. I go to the Bible and I look at what it has to say about any of these topics, and the Bible it addresses these things if you take the time, just like Norm shared about the spiritual warfare and having the authority to kick a demon out of a person. Well, we can do that, and we need to do that when we're called to do that. But I don't recommend doing it just willy-nilly. I think you be prayed up and you be informed, scripturally informed, what you're dealing with.
Folks, there are apps where you can talk to somebody in a foreign language, and that app will translate that for you and tell you what they're saying. I think that maybe you should look at the Bible as one of those apps to help you. Like Norm said this morning, I hadn't really thought about the land issue, but that is huge, and that's biblical. There's a lot of things. Listen, and the reason I say this is because I tried to prove the Bible wrong and had a lot of problems doing it. And evidently, I became a convert trying to prove somebody wrong, trying to prove the Bible wrong. So there you go. Very powerful, very powerful. Highly recommended. Newsmax, the Bible. What else, folks? What else can we use other than Last Call? Other than that, I know that's huge. I know everybody knows it. The hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that listen here. Yes. And Newsmax. I'm with you. We're going to take a break here shortly. Newsmax, I'm with you, JC. The only problem is that once they start becoming effective, then the governments, through whether it be communism, through it be the LGBT community, or through whatever influence, will squash them. And we have to find a way. Resources like podcasts are very important.
I don't think they're going to, because the owner of that station is a big Trump supporter. He's been in the Oval Office with Trump, and he's attended a lot of events. He's a tough guy too. You know what I mean? He's standing. He's not backing down. And all of them, all the other news medias are ripping him. That one guy, I forget who it was, said one night, he said, well, the Schmidt heads over at Newsmax, he calls them Schmidt heads. You know what that means? It's like, but yeah, they're trying, but I don't think they're going to be successful with it.
Well, keep in mind what happened to John Freshwater, and keep in mind what happened to Jay Sixers, and keep in mind, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's our job. It's our job to take care of that. We'll further discussion after the break, Mr. Anderson, if you would please. B.J. Edwards along, Mr. Anderson.
Keep this in mind. People are getting frustrated. People are getting irritated. There's a rising standing up, and they need somebody to say it. And I think with what they're saying and what they're standing for, I think more and more people are going to say enough is enough.
Hopefully.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
America, what a country. In the age of flock surveillance, I'm going to read some headlines. By the way, do you know what the final letter was that was added to the alphabet? It wasn't Z. You know what the final letter was? J. As in Jesus. Interesting that was the final letter that was added to the alphabet. In the age of flock surveillance, everyone is a potential criminal and you're guilty until proven innocent. I was on jury duty several years ago. And one of the fascinating things that I discovered about jury duty is that of the 12 that were there, what I heard was the defendant has to prove his innocence beyond a reasonable doubt. That is the attitude that the average citizen goes into in the courtroom. Maybe they make the assumption that they're guilty because, well, why else would our good government bring them to court? Why would they be arrested, right? So they have to prove their innocence. And I can tell you that in the courtroom that I was in, the attorneys that were after the defendant were more believed than the defendant, and they didn't have information. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but it had something to do with drugs and alcohol, but they didn't have any proof. And they didn't have any proof because the subject refused to do the breathalyzer, to do the blood test. It was an amazing experience. Flock surveillance. So they take you to court, and let's just say that BJ's right. You have to prove your innocence. How can you do it? They have you on camera. Or at least what they want to show on camera, right? Christian pastors are using AI to write sermons, sparking debate in congregations. New Jersey caught letting 6,600 non-citizen register to vote. Darlene Graham, sister, prompts conservative backlash for seeking a full term. What does it take to be qualified as a politician? Slick hair? Yeah. I don't know anybody on this panel that's going to be able to do that job.
Tell a bunch of lies.
Yeah. Ability to make somebody else. Here's who gets elected. The person that can convince the public that they are not as bad a person as the other candidate. And all you see is negative ads. And all we think we are voting for is the lesser of the evils. And as a politician, the information that you put out there can be slanderous and they can't do anything about it. That is a protection afforded to political candidates. Whether right or wrong, whether guilty or innocent, you are accused and you cannot. Here we go again. No fault. You cannot stop them from false testimony, from perjuring the other themselves. Art Schlester, I like to read him. Democrats are walking into a minefield. Folks, the November election is going to be very, very interesting. Now, if social media platforms like Nextdoor, etc., are any what representative of what's going to happen in November, if you're a conservative, if you're a Christian, you're not going to be happy and you're going to be in a lot of trouble. But not for 2 years. Because if the Dems get their way for the next 2 years, all we're going to hear about is the President of the United States and impeachment proceedings. That is all that's going to happen for the next 2 years. Progressive liberals, is that what you want? America, is that what you want? What is that going to do to this nation other than further divide us? Again, a lot of negative, even more negative information. Accusations. They don't even have to be proven because a judge, a liberal judge, is going to discard anything that is positive for one Donald J. Trump. Whatever you can say about Donald J. Trump, there's a lot of testosterone in that man because he is putting himself in a position where something bad can happen and continues to do so. Any comments so far, folks? Speechless?
You're doing good.
Members of Congress spar over radicalism at U.S. History Museum. Is Mickey Mouse a racist? Treasury stops nearly $100 million in taxpayer funds going to dead people. American Federation of Teachers calls union members to the streets to fight back against this racist, folks. Racism ends when we stop speaking it into existence. If there's racism in America, the needle is pointed toward Christians, Terror attack on New York City ICE facility, and this is what this teacher calls union and others are doing. Terrorist attack on New York City ICE facility. Progressives are good at slander, shaming, and using racism as a weapon. Not just confined to here. In the United Kingdom, Irish woman stabbed on the altar while praying. Attacker in New York City yells Allah Akbar while stabbing two. I had talked several times over the past few years about the Columbine effect. A 16-year-old arrested for shooting and killing a 15-year-old girl and her 9-year-old brother. Folks, those that forget the past are destined to repeat it in the future. We are an absolute moral mess right now. It's because we've taken Christianity. Prove me wrong. Christianity out of our nation. AI is now going to dictate what you're going to hear from the pulpit, right? It's a lot. Have you ever used AI? Wow. It's incredible. It is incredible. Saying the right words. You can put a word down you think is good, and it'll put something else down there. You go, I should have thought of that. Very, very good. Very, very good. Meet the boss. Socialism Andy Burnham installed as British Prime Minister. Prince Harry's 5-word peace offering to Prince William. Harry's married to Meghan Markle, who was upset at a MasterChef judge on her on-set request. Insiders say personality clashes. Here's what scares the dickens out of me, is I think Prince Harry is going to be the next king of England. I know, it's out of order. But I also know the power of public opinion. And I also see the wave that's headed our way. And it's not pretty. It is not pretty. Folks, do we have a 2-minute warning, Mr. Anderson? You're muted.
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah, we can go on.
Okay.
We got 5 minutes to the top of the hour.
Yeah. I said, any comments before I blab on?
Well, too much trust in Trump. He is a controlled entity that people don't see. Consider some of the good things he does, but the idea that he is setting up this country for surveillance across the nation with the cameras and the Palantir and with Larry Ellison and all the other big names that are out to control the people. And this battle with Iran, that's a huge mistake. How he got us into that, and he has no way out. That's a big problem. I wish I could recall all the stuff, but no, he's not a good president. And people like what he's doing, like with getting rid of the immigrants, supposedly. A lot of mistakes there, really mishandled. Going to foreign countries and killing people, their leaders. That's not our business. Making us a world cop, I don't know. I question a lot of what's going on. And so the man needs to be checked out more carefully.
Well, you're gonna need an opportunity to do that probably after November, January 1st of next year, or January 1st of next year. I think you're gonna be pleased with what's going to happen to our current president.
I don't know that I would be or not. I don't.
You apparently don't have a lot of trust or respect for him. Neither does the Democratic Party. And if he leaves, you wouldn't be disappointed, right?
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say that the problem with what we call a two-party system is the problem.
Two parties?
Two parties.
Yep.
Democrat, Republican. If you're not for one, you're for the other. If you're
Same
for
bug,
the other, you don't. And so you're you go way back. Take the way back machine to 1780s. We had founding fathers that we like to look at and listen to what their wisdom was, and one of them was rejecting the idea of a two-party system and the trouble that it would cause, and that's where we're stuck. So you got to choose you got to choose one or the other. You mentioned earlier the lesser of two evils. Well, there is no such thing as a lesser evil. Evil is evil. You can't make one evil less than another. It just it doesn't make biblical sense. It doesn't make logical sense to consider a lesser evil. So what we have are two groups of people, both very powerful in influence, arguing not in favor of the people. They're arguing in their own agendas, and they're trying to control the people to fit into their agenda, whichever it be.
We're going to take a break here, and then at the top of the hour, and then we'll continue the discussion. I know some of the other folks might want to get in on this. I agree, Mr. Anderson. In essence, what we're talking about is the same bug, just two different legs. And it's going to take us to the same place. They're all going to arrive at the same place. So let's take a break and maybe continue that discussion, get in a few more headlines. Bill Maher has something very interesting to say as well. So if you would, sir, take us out of here for
keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
There are, why don't you bring the rest of our panelists in, Mr. Well, they're in there. Okay. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Add to this, money is the power to make decisions. The more money you have, the more decisions you can make. The less money you have, the less decisions you can make. It's a BJism, if you will. But it is so true. And when you think about the amount of money that the government is spending, where they're getting that money from, that's kind of questionable, but they're still getting it. But a lot of the taxpayers are voluntarily giving more power to a government which they don't agree with. A government that can be trolled by someone that they don't disagree with, Betty, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing great. You?
Good. JC, Norm, any comments?
Yeah, I've been saying for years, and I know other people have said it, we need a third party. And I know over the years, third parties haven't done well. But you think about it, all you need is about 33 or 35% of the votes in that third party. You can win, say 35. It's just, and maybe now's the time. Maybe somebody could finally put a good third party together, basically based on Christian values, and people would flock to it. The Christians should, and even I think non-Christians would too. They know the difference between good and evil and morals and on and on and on. You know what I mean? So I think it's time.
Let me ask you this, JC. We have an election, a national election. We separate the president from the vice president. And here's how we do this. In this election, the person that gets the most votes becomes president. The person that gets the next most votes becomes vice president. What do you think about that?
Well, the only problem is them big blue cities take up a lot of the votes. California, New York, that's where the massive amount of the votes come from.
But they still have to be sure that their guy or gal gets the president.
Well, they got to get the election thing straightened out, the corruption in the voting, and have a third party. If they could work on a few of these things and then put together and just go out and slam dunk this thing, you know what I mean? But it's going to be a few steps to get to that point. It's like when I ran for county commissioner here, 60,000 people in Knox County. 60,000. How many think voted in that election? 6,000. 6,000. So Bill Purcell that won got 2,400 votes. 2,400 votes out of 60,000 people. Me and the other two guys, three of us total, each had a right at 1,000 votes each. It was crazy. He didn't win no landslide, you know what I mean? But it was a Republican Party backing him. Pastor Bill said that night at the elections. We went down to the elections when the votes were coming in at the alcove downtown Mount Vernon with all the politicians and everybody. We're watching the board and the numbers coming in. Pastor Bill's looking at, got towards the end. He said, JC, if just some of them Christians would have come out and voted, you'd have kicked his butt. I said, I know, but 10 years ago, 8, whatever it was, they just didn't see it, and it hadn't gotten bad enough yet.
The church could make one heck of a difference. You're right, JC. It could make one heck of a difference. But Christians aren't supposed to be in politics, right? Jesus wasn't in politics. Well, wait a minute. Hold on. Yeah, I guess he was. He talked to the political rulers of the day, didn't he? Got hung for it, but he did talk to them. And he did have influence over them. Norm, butt in.
Well, sure. Well, I guess I've got a little different line of thinking, I've got a video out there called "How to Use Your Bible to Vet a Politician." Because we can. The Bible gives us instructions for the government and what they're supposed to be involved in. And of course, I've said for a long time, the two biggest victories the devil's had in America is separation of church and state and going to a two-party political system. The devil had to silence the church first and then go to the two-party political system, which winds up where we are, is nothing but a fight for power and control.
Mhm.
I think we've got to work with the system that we have. I think we have to pick the one that's closest to a biblical guideline, and then we need to go to work as Christians, because we see biblically that God sent a prophet, and He sent godly men to the leaders to help them and to lead them. We see in Deuteronomy 17 that when a king went into office, he was supposed to get a book and write down the law, and then get with the priest. And because God understood kings and politicians didn't always know God's word, but he was supposed to get with the priest and say, "Hey, have I got this right? Is this what I need to do?" And so we see the church and we see the priest working with the political leaders, and we need to go to work working with those political leaders to change the areas that are ungodly. But, a third-party system, I think, our three parties might work. I don't see it happening, but I see a big failure, with the church. We had 40,000 or 40 million evangelicals that didn't vote. And, we see, in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 1, Moses said, "Choose for your tribes wise, understanding, and experienced men, and I'll appoint them as heads over you." That is an election. God wanted the people to choose their leaders. And then we see that Moses appointed leaders over 1,000, over 100, over 50, and even 10. And if I'm going to have a leader, and I think that was probably 10 families, not just 10 people, but if I'm going to have a leader leading me in my area, I'm going to vote. I'm going to speak up. And I think that's what God is telling us there in the book of Deuteronomy, is that everybody needs to vote. I think it's our responsibility, because I know things about my neighbor or somebody that's running for office that nobody else knows, maybe that I need to get involved. And so I think I think Christians, I think the devil has done a real number on Christians, and they've given up. Hey, my vote doesn't count. They're all crooked. We've got 100 excuses why we don't vote. But I think God holds us responsible to vote, and first off, again, to vet the politician. And again, we're not going to get a perfect one, but let's get the one closest, and then go to work to educate them in the areas that they need change.
I can say something.
Go ahead.
I just believe that the devil is at the pulpit, not all churches, but many of them. And it is the wolf in sheep's clothing. And instead of creating an army of the Lord, we're creating sissy people from sissified pastors who does book bags on weekends, which is fine. But there's more to this than that, or a bigger building or whatever. They need to create an army of the Lord. They need to offend, because you need strong men out there leading us. So I think we need to start at our churches, and from there we could win this war.
Now, Betty, here you go preaching again, Jay.
I know.
Here's what I've had to say about that. They said about half of the pastors, when Roe v. Wade was overturned, about half the pastors were silent, never said a word. And they don't want to engage. And I've said pastors love separation of church and state, because half their congregation is voting one way and half the other, and they don't want to get involved. And when they don't, here's what I see. It's about their kingdom and not about God's kingdom.
I like to go back to a little bit of history again when we look at America. And when we were at our best, we didn't have income tax. We didn't have everybody voting. thinking that that's a right, everybody gets to vote. No, people that voted in the early foundations of the country.
What did I do there?
I don't know. You took me out. You don't want to hear what I got to say. I don't know.
Go ahead and put yourself back. I don't know what happened there. You don't get me near technology, folks. I'll blow it up.
Boom. The people that have skin in the game, as I like to say, you vote because you have skin in the game. If you're gonna vote for things that are gonna cause you to go broke, I don't think you're gonna vote for that. Well, what I'm saying is we became a welfare state because people who collect welfare are voting. And
Well,
you know, I mean, that's oversimplifying it, but that's part of the problem that we have. And you know what you said earlier, Norm, about vetting. We don't vet our politicians. Every early colony state, the 13 early states, in their constitutions required a man or woman. I think they basically required men to run. Were vetted to be Christians in the first place.
Sure.
When you go and read the Constitution, and who you put into office ought to be vetted as someone who believes like you believe.
Sure. I agree.
Now we have a Congress of the United States of America that are swearing their loyalties to a foreign nation, Israel.
Right.
And they're sending our tax dollars and our men. And that, you know, if the draft comes along, which probably will, who's going to be drafting our soldiers, our kids? Who's going to be pulling our kids out to fight whose war?
And they want our people to be killed and not theirs. They've already said that.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Why not?
If you can get if you can get a nation stupid enough to do that,
right.
Yeah, go for it.
I think we've fallen for it. 48 of our senators, 2 from Ohio, voted in favor of this conglomeration with Israel of our military. And you know, what are we saying about American? What we're saying is we're warmongers now, because we're changing from defense to war.
Amen. Amen.
Does that line up with biblical principles?
Well, Trump is doing great things, but he's bound down to Israel. Didn't he say he didn't want to have any wars? Now what are we doing? We're fighting for Israel, killing innocent lives.
Interesting.
Time.
So it's went on for 47 years. When's it going to stop? Never. If somebody doesn't get a backbone and stand up and kill the enemy, it's never going to stop. Listen to Carl Higbie. He'll tell you. He fought and died for this country. He's ran for Congress. We're a mess. If we don't, and I don't think we ought to police the whole damn world either. But my goodness, there comes a time when the enemy's going to come in and rob your house. What are you going to do? You going to talk sweet to him? Don't say, oh, buddy, would you like to go to church with me this Sunday? We could change your life. Jeez, it's just nuts. I think there's a breaking point coming. The people, everybody you talk to, you ask them, I said, what do you think about the Republicans and Democrats? Everybody always says, I can't stand either one of them. It's coming. It is coming. I think things are going to come to a head here real soon. Real quick. God's not going to let this crap keep going on forever. Something's got to give. The politicians are corrupt. The churches are soft. They're all a bunch of weenies. Sooner or later, like Coach always says, the NASCAR crowd's got to step up. Real men and even real tough women like Betty. We got to stand up and take charge of this thing. It's just incredible what's going on. Carl Higbie or Rob Finnerty the other night showed on his newscast. Here's an example of some of the stuff they show. He said, what's going on with these sick, mentally deranged people? He showed a guy that was dressed up. He was at supposedly a veterinary clinic. And this woman, supposedly woman, was tranny. She was the veterinary, and this guy's up on the table, the operating table for an animal, and he's got a big old fox tail on the back of him, and he's acting real stupid on that top of that table, and she's petting him and scratching his back. And you want some scritchies? He said, "What's wrong with these sick people?" He said, "You're not an animal, buddy." He just ripped it. But they are showing things like this on their shows, informing the people. And the more that people get informed on this evil that's out there, that's just rearing its ugly head, sooner or later, people got to get sick of it. We got to get sick of this nonsense.
Take a quick break, Mr. Anderson. I'll do that. You don't have to. It's just B.J. Edwards. Mr. Anderson, you're listening to your Last Call, lastcallradio.live, every Saturday morning, generally 2 hours. We're making it 90 minutes today, which means we only got about 10 minutes left for positive. What are we going to do about all this? I'm going to start by saying we should really, especially the 250th year of the United States, start celebrating our American heritage. Part of that's going to be acknowledging our Genesis, our beginning, which was Christian and intended to be that way. Do you want to be looking for another Holland? Because that's what the Christians had to do in England. And that's what Christians are going to have to do in America. They're going to have to look for some place to go. You don't want to do that. You can't do that. You can't afford to do that. I don't know where you can go, to be honest with you. But celebrating an American Heritage Month, that's a positive. July would be a great month. Make it a law that every July we celebrate American. We start with independence. Yeah, but what about the founding fathers? What about their backgrounds? What about their families? What about the military, the folks that died? Come on. We should be, instead of picking all these negatives out, folks, we need to start with the positives and then take that environment into a conversation. Because right now you're having conversations. You are primed for an argument. Every time you get into a conversation with somebody you disagree with, liberals, conservatives, you're primed for an argument. Here's the deal, folks. If we don't do something like this, if we don't start taking a positive approach to this, start pushing for for more than two parties, not just three, for more than two parties. Start pushing for that. Well, yeah, it won't work. You don't know it won't work until you try it. And don't give up at the first try. You got to keep after it. You have to keep after it. This is not easy. Let me tell you what's going to happen here. And it's something I say a lot. When it comes to clarity, pain is a universal solvent. And because our Creator is just, we're already in for a good butt whooping. But you want to limit that exercise, if you will. He's a forgiving God. And He loves us. So we need to go after it, knowing that. But He also doesn't want us to sit by. The Bible says very clearly, to not do, to know to do good and not to do it is a sin. Any other suggestions, folks?
Well, ultimately, we even as Christians, we forget to go to God first. And if we don't put God first, then we're going to be left behind, because if I don't get direction from the Lord, if I don't have that, I make a lot of mistakes on my own behalf. And so as this nation began to turn its back on God, third party, four party, I don't voting restrictions, additions, anything we try to do on our own, if we don't have the Lord involved with what we choose to do as a nation, as a people, we're going to get lost.
Agree.
We're already lost, really.
Yeah.
And if we don't, like people like to go back and quote 2 Chronicles, what is it?
7:14.
7:14, yeah. Is if my people, if, there's always that if. When you look at a covenant with God, there's always an if. If you do, then I will. That's what God said all through the Bible. And so there's that if, and if we repent, turn from our wicked ways, and we can name many wicked ways that this country is suffering right now, then I will hear their prayers. So is he listening right now? Are we crying out to God, but he's not hearing because we're not doing the first part, repent, turning from our wicked ways?
As a nation, folks.
As a nation.
And as a nation. The nation is the problem right now, just noteworthy.
And people say, well, they want revival. Well, what do? They get together in a church or a school somewhere and jump up and down and sing songs and act like they've been set free. But when they walk out the door, they're facing the same problems, even worse.
And you said there a minute ago, left behind. So, so you got, it says right in the scripture.
I got that.
Didn't I say, Lord, Lord? Well, they're going to get left behind. A vast majority of them. It's going to be a small remnant. So why not go for the gusto? Let's just take the lid off the can and let's light the stick of dynamite and let her blast.
JR@naturalfamilystrong.com. I want to hear your suggestions. JR@naturalfamilystrong.com. I don't want to hear your complaints. You can note the issue, the problem, but I want to hear your suggestions. It's very important. I don't know where that came from. But that is, we're so prone to just complain as versus to do. Like I talk about, we're an Uber generation. We expect to have our needs at our door anticipated and delivered with very little effort, if any, on our part. That's called communism. That is the allure of communism. You don't have to do anything, just be a good person, whatever that is, and we'll take care of you. We'll take money from this individual, this group, and we'll give it to you because you're more deserving. And we know best.
Robin Hood.
Yeah. Good point. I want to please positive suggestions. That's very important. Mr. Anderson, you mentioned something about Iran, or some other folks mentioned something about Iran. U.S. deploying additional warplanes to Middle East as it prepares to escalate Iran war. I don't know how many of you were around, but do you remember Vietnam? The only thing missing in the Iran situation is U.S. ground troops. Once that happened, you have exactly the situation you had in Vietnam. They didn't win, and we're not going to win.
And a lot of people get hurt.
Yes.
And a lot of money floats away in the ocean.
And you have more grounds for division. 5 minutes. Anybody else want to pipe in? Norm, you've been quiet.
Well, so many people say we need to get back to God. President Trump has said it over and over. The only problem is they don't have a plan to do that.
Okay.
And, the plan is going to have to start with the family. You've been preaching that for 10 years. And until the family, till the men in the family get their hearts right with the Lord and takes on their responsibility to lead their family. And as Deuteronomy 6 says, to teach their kids when they lie down, when they rise up, when they walk by the way, and so forth.
Amen.
And until we do that, we're going to stay in deep doo-doo.
Folks, we next week we have a great guest. And I'm not going to get into a whole lot of details other than if you're married and you suddenly get a diagnosis of cancer or something that's threatening your life, it tests that relationship you have with the opposite sex. A lot of cases, that other partner leaves you alone.
Well,
What do you do? What are you supposed to think about that? You know, men aren't very good nursemaids. And in a lot of those cases, say most of those cases, it's the man that leaves. Lack of commitment, lack of confidence. What's the reason for that?
I know Norm, he went through a lot, and I admire his fortitude to care for his wife. He was there for her every minute. And even I didn't know him when his wife wasn't sick, but I believe he was there even when she was healthy. And I think they held hands and they carried each other through their relationship. No, it's not always smooth sailing, but it's always good.
Yeah, go ahead.
BJ, what you were talking about there, that it's usually the man that leaves. My thought was, I think he'd already left.
Well, or wasn't totally committed.
Yeah, on an emotional level, not a physical level.
Yeah.
But about me taking care of my wife, she talked to me, that this is a burden. I said, listen, honey, I said, Jesus made this statement. I did not come here to be served. I came to serve others, and that's our calling. And I looked at it as an opportunity to serve. It wasn't, did I get tired at times? Sure. Getting up in the middle of the night, and doing things, but it was an opportunity, to serve, and until we can get, and that's what I dealt with couples forever. If I could get the husband serving the wife and the wife serving the husband, the deal worked really good. But it's just, what about me? What about me? And that's where we're at.
And that's a good place to leave this, because next week is going to be very interesting, folks. It's going to be challenging to you. It's going to be challenging to you, purposely. Listen, life isn't easy. Life is not easy, but those tough times, if you use them properly, if you allow them to be part of your life, part of your understanding, part of your learning, you have no idea how beneficial that'll be, not necessarily tomorrow or the next day, but down the road, when you can, when all the dust clears, you can see, oh, I wouldn't have known that otherwise. But we'll get into that next week. Mr. Anderson, why don't you take us out of here? BJ Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. I appreciate everybody's comments this morning. I hope you all learned something. JR@naturalfamilystrong.com. I want to hear your solutions for the issue in America. What you think the problems are. Maybe we didn't discuss the right problems. Maybe we're off base here. Let me know. JR@naturalfamilystrong.com. Have a great weekend. Love y'all. And I thank our panelists this morning.
God bless.
Join us next week for Last Call with BJ Edwards.